Call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, could we have a roll call of the board members, please?
Robertson.
Here.
Racine.
Here.
Yulee.
Here.
Augustinelli.
Here.
Castiglione.
Here.
Fudge.
Here.
And DeGood.
Here. And next up on the agenda, we have an opportunity for public comment, but public should please recognize that we have two public hearings tonight. One for the Olson's PUD major amendment for wireless communications tower, and another for the Olson's Foundation site condominium. Those two public hearings will occur during old business, but ask that you make those public comments at that time, but any other public comments you have, please step up to the podium, state your name and address, and be heard.
Good evening. Judith Danford, 1139 Northwest Silver Lake Road, Traverse City, Michigan. I would like to make a comment in regard to the moratorium procedure and what sparked that at last 2 weeks ago at your meeting. I thank you for addressing that. It is crucial at this point in time that you continue in that vein. I had opportunity to speak with Steve today, and it was very helpful, very knowledgeable. And so I've done my little due diligence here in writing and looking through it. In that message of encouragement, the one thing that it really prompted me to do was to revisit and continue to do a deep dive into the data centers and the things that are happening not only within the framework of the United States, but globally. And so I am thankful that you are on it and handling this and getting to it in advance of something happening. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else? All right, we'll go ahead and close public comment and move on to item agenda number 2, review and approval of the agenda and statement of any conflicts of interest. And I'll start off by saying that I live next door to Olson's Plaza West and will therefore be recusing myself from the PD 2026-85 Olson Major Amendment Wireless Communication Tower. And I look forward to our Vice Chair, Carrie Yulee, taking over and leading that portion of the meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Support.
We have a motion by Robertson, support by Fudge. Is there any further comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The motion passes. Next on our agenda, we have review of the minutes from our May 27th, 2026 meeting. Any comments on those minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Support.
Motion by Yulee, support by Robertson. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion passes. Next on the agenda, is there any correspondence, John?
Just what's in the packet is all that we have. There's one item in the packet.
Appears to be related to White Pine Ridge subdivision?
Correct.
Okay. All right, moving on, reports from the Township Board.
Yep, two things. One is the township has agreed to cost share with the road commission and put a sidewalk in along Frankie Road. Part of it is completed from Silver Lake Road to the school, but it will continue on to 31. So I think that's a nice connection. So
Definitely.
So that's one. And the other is we had a report on what's happening in our building department. I just wanted to share some numbers with you so you know things are happening in Garfield Township. In 2025, year to the end of May, we had 13 million and a half in permits. So far this year, we have 57.69 million in permits. So big 316% increase. I was curious about new homes in 25 year to date. We had 15 new construction, single-family homes. In 26, 10. So, you know, we've talked about finding ways to have single-family around and just sharing the information that we probably could use it. So, that's it.
Okay. Thanks, Molly. Zoning Board of Appeals.
No meeting.
Parks and Recreation met last Monday. We have a significant number of projects either going on or being bid out. Steve, pipe up, but those include improvements over at River East, corrective improvement. There's work going on at the YMCA and the pickleball courts.
Restoring after the flooding.
Restoring after the flooding, right?
Mhm.
And then there is work going on out at Silver Lake Park, including, are the pickleball courts done?
They're in progress, if not, I mean, the picture we had was even a little bit out of date since they made a lot of progress since then. So they're close to wrapping up, if not getting there soon. So.
And I believe that the trail improvements and the commons are out for bid, or?
So we received 2 bids back. They were both over what we had initially estimated. There were some challenges in going through Eagle's process to get wetland permit. There's ended up being more wetlands throughout the site than we thought we were able to skirt around them more. We ended up having to deal with more as needed. So they're currently working with kind of the preferred bidder, the low bidder, to see like what else can be kind of brought down. It sounds like the board had that discussion yesterday. So
Yes.
try to just do all the due diligence prior to actually having that project start. But it seems like there's one that we're working with and would be good. River East bathrooms are still need to be bid out or need to receive the bids back. The River East site work went with AJ's, and the pre-construction meeting was actually apparently today.
Great.
So it looks like they'll be getting started. So I think they'll have to close the park for a little bit of time to do that. But they were also able to, they had the most both friendly and condensed schedule to minimize closing of the park. So that looks like that's one's on schedule.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that update. Anything from the Joint Planning Commission?
Haven't met for a couple of months. I think we're on for July.
Correct, July.
Okay. All right, on to the staff report.
You have our report in your packet for June, and I don't really have anything to add to that, but so if you got any questions or comments.
Okay, any questions from anybody on the commission? All right, we'll move on to old business, and we'll start with item A, PD 2026-85, Olson PUD Major Amendment, Wireless Communication Tower and Public Hearing. And I will turn it over to our Vice Chair, Carrie Yulee.
I don't think I've actually done one of the public hearings before, so I'm going to ask staff to help me out. I think you guys usually tee it up, and then we open the public hearing. Is that right?
Yep.
All right, go for it.
Yep, and the applicant is also here. They had prepared a PowerPoint presentation, so sorry for the technical difficulties. We're able to print it out, though, so I'm actually just pass them because I've seen this, and we can see it on our screen, but if there's a couple extra for people in the audience as well, so apologies for technical difficulties, but so this was introduced at the previous meeting to orient everyone. It's the a proposed monopole tower, cell tower, at the back of the Olson's grocery store site at Cedar Run and North Long Lake Road. There were some kind of initial questions, both from staff and from Plan Commission. applicants provided some additional information. They provided, some of the updated info includes the determination of the no hazard to air navigation from FAA, indicating it does not need to be lit. There was some additional information responding to some of the zoning and site plan considerations, and additional information about ownership and outreach to some of the, and their kind of process of determining why they chose this site, kind of the background of what led to this decision-making process. But otherwise, it's proposed for in the kind of back little like loading and parking area of the Olson PUD site. Since it is part of a PUD, it's being done as a major amendment to the PUD since it's requesting additional land uses than the original PUD. So that's why it's in this process, and we're at public hearing, so applicant can add more if you'd like to, or do the public hearing. John, actually, what would you do first? Applicant first or public hearing first?
It might be help, it's up to you, Chair.
Yeah, I think it would be good if the applicant can kind of walk us through the slides, even if they're not up on the screen, kind of just take us through this, briefly update us where appropriate. Were there a couple left over for the public if anybody wanted?
I think I saw a couple, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Good evening. Good evening to the planning commissioners. Thank you again for the opportunity to have myself, Aaron Sitole, and my colleague, Mike Powers, to speak to you guys about the proposed cell tower. So we are here representing Atlas Tower, which is located based at the address 4041 Hanover Avenue, Boulder, Colorado. So the project that we are proposing is a 120-foot monopole tower that will be enclosed within a 1,440 square foot compound, which is located at the address 3850 North Long Lake Road, Traverse City. The proposed tower is needed to support AT&T's relocation, network upgrades, and FirstNet public safety communications, and will also be designed to support future co-location, which will be in compliance with Garfield Township's zoning ordinance. So this site isn't simply proposed to expand AT&T's network, but it is being proposed because the current area where AT&T has their antennas located, which is on one of the rooftops of the concrete company in Traverse City, is soon to be decommissioned. So AT&T has been working since late 2022 to try find a replacement solution for the specific area of Traverse City that they serve. And they were handed a termination notice by their current landowner, who's the owner of the Traverse City Concrete Company. So this proposed replacement is necessary to maintain service in the area, to support ongoing network upgrades, and to continue supporting FirstNet communications that serve the first responders and public safety personnel in the community. Additionally, the tower location will utilize existing public rights-of-way and existing access points that are on the proposed parcel. So why the parcel where Olson's food store is? So as I was previously mentioning, the landowner where AT&T currently has the antennas installed handed them a termination letter. So they have been working since late 2022 to find a solution. In their due diligence to find existing structures within Garfield Township to install the antennas, they found that pretty much the Munson Medical Center is the only existing structure that is tall enough to accommodate the height requirements for meaningful coverage in the area. And as thus, AT&T started conversations with the medical center's legal representatives. And in discussions, the medical center's legal representatives had outlined about 15 items in the lease agreement that were a no-go for the hospital. In that process, AT&T had stated to the medical center that they are willing to work through those items to make sure that they do come to an agreement, because their coverage in that specific area of Traverse City is important to them, mainly because of the FirstNet, first responder communication that they have throughout the area, with the hospital being currently 0.3 miles southeast of where their current equipment is installed. So through those communications and negotiations, AT&T prepared documents to address the concerns that the medical center had, and unfortunately did not hear back from Munson Medical Center after multiple attempts to follow up with them. And that's when the carrier did reach out to Atlas Tower to help them find a solution, see if a wireless facility could be built in the geographic area where they do need the coverage. So when Atlas began the due diligence, we had identified 15 different candidates. Of those 15, 14 did not work. For various reasons, landlord not being interested, not hearing a response from them, or the parcels not being zoned appropriately to have a cell tower on them. So, with our efforts of reach out, we did end up getting into lease negotiations with the Olsons that own the property at 3850 North Long Lake Road, and ended up getting a lease agreement signed with them, which has us here today for the hearing for the cell tower. So the specific parcel and the specific location for the tower on the parcel is positioned behind the food store to minimize the visibility of the ground equipment from the public. The parcel in particular was selected because it's big enough to meet the zoning ordinance setbacks that are required for new wireless facilities. The tower itself is located adjacent to existing trees and a steep hill towards the west side of the parcel that will help provide natural screening and visual buffering for the tower. And that in the decision to place the tower there, we believe that the tower being placed there will help fit the visual aesthetic of the surrounding area. Additionally, the specific tower location was strategically placed due to surrounding wetlands in that portion of the property, the existing conservation easement, and the no-cut, no-disturbance area that is to the west side of the property. So just briefly speaking on the wetland that is on the property, the site plan that was submitted has our current best approximation of where we believe the wetland to be. And that was put in the site plan from documents that were provided to us by the owner, Brad Olson, and by Steve as well, from archives that the township has of where the wetland is. So we got that incorporated into our drawings, but we do currently have a wetland delineation going on, and that is anticipated to be complete by the end of this week or early next week. So once that document does become available, we will happily share that with the township. And with regards to the actual tower location, in discussions with Steve, the tower location that you see right now on the site plan is subject to minor changes depending on what we get back from the wetland delineation, if the wetland is shifted or not. Right, so moving on to setback compliance of the proposed tower in accordance with Garfield Township's code. The code does require that the tower and carrier ground equipment be set back a minimum as required for the zoning district in which the tower is located. The parcel is zoned agricultural, and the zoning requirements, setback requirements, are 30 feet from the front, 20 feet from the sides, and 35 feet from the rear. Additionally, the ordinance does require a 1-to-1 setback or a distance of the tower height equaling from property lines. So the proposed setbacks of the tower from residential properties is 832 feet from the south, 243 feet from the north property line, 325 feet from the east property line, and 635 feet from the west property line. So with the requirement to be set back a distance equal to the tower height from residential properties, the proposed tower does exceed the requirements in all directions. So in the packet, there should be a map that shows the parcels that were identified. Apologies, I skipped a few slides on there, but on the PowerPoint slide, the map does show in red parcels that are not permitted for a cell tower. In yellow should be parcels that were outside of AT&T's target area, as they want to serve the area immediately around Munson Medical Center. And what's in blue is owned by the concrete company. We did, in an attempt to get a lease agreement for this proposed cell tower, mail a lease agreement to the landowner of that property, but received no response, just in case they would be open to having a cell tower built rather than antennas co-located on one of the existing structures. So moving a few slides ahead, there's 3 slides there that do show coverage maps of the area. The first map is showing existing coverage with the antennas that AT&T currently has on the concrete company building. The second slide shows what coverage will look like once the existing site goes offline, and if AT&T does not find a solution. And the third slide should show what coverage will look like with the new proposed cell tower. So looking at the first coverage map, you can see on there that the existing site provides an important layer of service in the area, and what's shown in green shows coverage that is very good, and that immediate area where the green is approximately 0.7 miles from where the antennas currently are located. And just outside the green area, the coverage shows that it's good and fair, with small pockets of marginal coverage. So moving on to the next coverage map, which shows what coverage will look like when the current site does go offline and AT&T doesn't find a solution. It shows that the fair and marginal coverage becomes greater in that surrounding area, which does become a pretty significant concern because of the FirstNet communications that AT&T has deployed with those antennas, and particularly with the Munson Medical Center in close proximity to that. So the third coverage map shows what coverage will look like with the proposed cell tower. And you can see on that the coverage is restored and is improved in the area. The green area pretty much comes back, and that's about 0.7 miles from where the new proposed cell tower is going to be. And outside of that, with good coverage and fair coverage, with no pockets of the marginal coverage in red. Right, so moving on to the next slide, should be a map of existing wireless facilities within Garfield Township, and that was provided by Steve. So in that map should be a blue dot towards the top left corner of the map, showing where we are proposing building the tower. It additionally shows where AT&T currently is, just to the northeast of that blue dot. And one important thing that I do want to point out is that in that surrounding area, that map does not show any existing facilities. So that distance is approximately about a mile. And when you look at the next slide, that shows the due diligence that Atlas did to locate existing structures. And in that slide, the red circle indicates 1 mile from the Olson's property and the concrete company. And all the existing structures that we did find was outside that 1 mile radius. So all of that to say that AT&T's due diligence and efforts to find an existing structure were pretty much limited in that Munson Medical Center was or is the tallest structure in the vicinity that has the appropriate height for their network coverage, and that anything outside a mile pretty much is outside of their target area, hence why they do need a new wireless facility to be built in that geographic area. Right, so what are going to be the benefits of the new cell tower? First and arguably most important is the public safety aspect and emergency response. So the new cell tower will support AT&T's FirstNet network, and it will help them maintain reliable communications for first responders, emergency personnel, public safety agencies, and for Munson Medical Center itself. The new tower will help maintain existing service, as it will provide a replacement for the coverage that they do have in the area currently, but also the carrier is proposing equipment upgrades, which they currently cannot have on the existing building that's owned by the concrete company due to structural analyses that the carrier did. Additionally, it will help with network upgrades, which with the upgraded equipment installed, the upgraded equipment will help improve the network performance and reliability, and will also increase the capacity that the antennas are able to handle for existing users. Resident connectivity will be improved for nearby homes and properties by enabling AT&T to upgrade the equipment and support increased data demand. There'll also be a benefit to recreational users and the surrounding community, as the new cell tower will help support connectivity for users of the Grand Traverse Commons natural area and help provide reliable service for nearby businesses, employees, and customers. And the tower will be future-ready infrastructure, as it will be built and designed to have a total of 3 carriers collocate on there. and will help with supporting growing demand for wireless connectivity and data services. Thank you.
Questions, comments before we open it up for the public comment?
My only question is that the FirstNet communication is within the same antenna as AT&T, or is it separate antennas?
It will be the same array of antennas, yes.
You can come to the mic as well. Yep.
Hi, I'm Michael Powers, also from Atlas. I think I know a little bit more than Aaron does because you weren't here when that was rolled out. But what happened was after 9/11, Congress earmarked many billions of dollars to create a FirstNet infrastructure that would be just for emergency personnel. And they spent about a decade building that out, but eventually what happened was Congress did not have enough money to complete the project. So there, sometime in the last 5 years, there was an RFP, and several companies bid on the RFP. AT&T won that bid. So what it looks like now is AT&T owns, I'm going to get the numbers not quite right, but I think AT&T owns about 14 to 15 national licenses, and then also regional licenses. But in addition, AT&T houses frequencies for FirstNet for that infrastructure on 3 other bands. And what happens is if the 3 FirstNet bands get overloaded, AT&T is required to shut down some of their other frequencies and basically
Can you just step over to the mic a little bit, please? Thank you.
earmark that to the emergency. So it's kind of a public-private collaboration. And just for common sense, obviously, both of those networks work simultaneously, and if there was an issue, emergency people can use both of those networks in an emergency.
Okay.
Yes, okay, so this is a public hearing. If you have a comment that you'd might like to make, please step up to the mic, tell us your name and address and what you're thinking about.
My name's Donna Miller, and I live at 3946 Cedar Run Road, which is probably about 300 feet, one of the closest places to where they're going to put the tower. And I guess I just have a few questions and a comment. I don't have a perception of how high that tower is going to be in terms of the hill versus and the trees around. I just would like to know that. But number 2, a very important thing for myself is having AT&T reception at my house, because I have 2 sons who are on ventilators. And the ventilators have modems that use the AT&T network to give information daily to the pulmonology in Ann Arbor. And if I have questions on what's going on with my sons, I call them, I message Ann Arbor, and they can see what's going on in their ventilators at that time, minute by minute, hour by hour, on what's happening with my kids, and help me with managing that. If we lose the maps that they just showed, if we lose the tower that we currently have and don't replace it, we're probably going to not have good reception and might not be able to have good modem it's just, I really question if we'll have modem reception available enough to communicate the ventilators to Ann Arbor very well. So I welcome the tower, even though it's going to be very close to my house. I do have another question is, I don't know about cell towers and other companies and competitors, but do you ever allow a competitor to put their thing on your tower? I'm just asking. because I'm, for cell phone usage, would other people who use competitors be able to get better cell phone things if you allow competitors to put their things on your tower? I'm asking, do you share towers?
So I think what we'll do is we'll have all the public comments, we'll collect all the questions, and then we'll ask you to come back up and respond to those specifically if that works for you. And thank you for your comments.
And we can answer some as well. Yeah.
Okay, my name is Catherine Marciniak DeGood. I live at 4013 Cedar Run Road. So basically, I have lived next door to Olson's Plaza West for more than 20 years, and I'm grateful that they have been good neighbors. I have two items that I would just like to bring to your attention. And given the presentation that was given prior to comment, I still feel like this is not addressed in a completely honest format. So the Garfield Township Planning Department report for this meeting stated that the applicant must provide documentation that the applicant was unable to secure a lease agreement to allow the placement of the proposed antenna on an existing structure or building. The applicant presents documentation which supports, as he stated, that they entered into negotiations with Munson, that there are provisions in their standard lease agreement that were unacceptable to Munson, that AT&T advised Munson that those concerns could be addressed, and that the subsequent phone calls by the applicant were not returned by Munson. However, the applicant does not present documentation supporting that the applicant submitted a revised agreement addressing Munson's concerns or that they concluded negotiations with Munson. So I don't believe that there's evidence that presents that the applicant was unable to secure a lease agreement. Rather, it seems like they just stopped trying. My second point would be that the Township Planning Department report also states that the setback requirements specified are minimums, and approval may have a greater setback requirement imposed by the Planning Commission if substantiated by a need to minimize the visual and aesthetic impacts of the cell tower. And I request that the Planning Commission would consider revised setbacks to minimize the visual and aesthetic impacts of the tower. To support that review, the Planning Commission should ask the applicant to provide photorealistic renderings of the tower from different viewpoints placed in the environment that it will be in. The photo in this packet is just a random stock photo. I also request that the Planning Commission continue this public hearing to a subsequent meeting so that the public may have an opportunity to review new renderings and offer comment concerning the visual and aesthetic impact of the tower. Thank you.
Thank you. Give it an awkward long second. Nobody else is coming up to the mic, so we'll bring it back here. So we've got a couple of questions, but is there anything else that we want to add to that list before we have the applicant come back up and address those for us? And by the way, I did note the same thing that it does call out on page 5 there about providing that documentation, and I wonder if that is something that we would want to make part of an eventual motion, or if that's something that just would come out in findings of fact.
Yeah, it's something staff noted as well. I think the information on kind of the storytelling on how it got to this point, it's kind of clear like the steps they took, but yeah, just providing the documentation of how that got to that point and what were those 15 concerns. Like, did that kind of present as insurmountable? As much that can be shared, but I think documentation that there was legitimate reason. I do think there's sort of a lack of facilities right in the general area, so I think the map kind of helps explain why the search area was also limited. We also wanted to, I wanted to note as staff, the township map that was in there. I was hoping to just pull it up and zoom in on it. It would have been a lot clearer, but it's of wireless communication facilities. It is all kinds of, there's radio towers, and it was anything that was a leased area. The list, I think, I worked with assessing to figure out which parcels have something on it. So it's not just like cell towers, but it was like any type of facility like that. Like if you're up in the northwest part of town, there's a lot of them in that area. There's some kind of like guy wire anchored towers. So that map shows all of those facilities. And I think we noted that I think Plan Commission kind of loosely asked if there could be a rendering. Forwarded it to the applicant, I think, later than that could be done, but I think if we requested that, it sounds like that's something that may be able to be done. We can confirm with Aaron. But we also look back on when we reviewed the Tower North one from a couple years ago. They did renderings of kind of perspective from the roadway, so like a few different, like, so it might be good to have it from like North Long Lake Road, Cedar Run Road, kind of a vantage point rendering, which is ultimately what people are going to be seeing anyway. So if that is something that's able to be done, I think that would be helpful. So.
Also on the overall site plan, we don't have elevation marks on the topography, and the topography isn't shown all the way on Olson's property. So
Yeah, Z2 has some of the topography localized to the where it's proposed. And then, like, the further it zooms in, it kind of has less of that information.
So it looks like it jumps up
Yeah,
45 feet from
there's
the
a pretty significant hill behind
site.
Olson's. But yeah, just kind of the perspective. There's also a question about other companies, and that would be the co-location, which is
Explain that.
in the zoning ordinance as well, but they can explain in more detail. So I think that's all we had to add for the moment.
So, Steve, is there any opportunity at all for any of those other towers that are up there to be able to support this kind of project?
I mean, gathering, like, considering the information that's provided, and kind of where something is placed, how much of a coverage area it has, especially knowing that there's a big hill going up from this area, it seems like, at least based on what is provided, something in this kind of more localized area where there's not as many facilities seems to be appropriate, because I think AT&T was on one of the other ones. They might actually be on the township's water tower, or former water tower that we have some equipment on. I don't remember specifically, but it seems like there's kind of the far northwest corner, and then this were two localized enough areas that it seemed to be warranted, and it's replacing one that is existing. It's not like they're adding it. It's not like there's one existing and they're just adding another one. They're losing the ability to do one and proposing just to replace it with another one. So.
Okay, one more question is, we had a lot of discussion about the FCC when we did the tower on Zimmerman Road,
Or
and
FAA.
whether or not we
Or the
really-
FCC as well, yeah. Okay.
really had to do that.
Yeah.
So, how is that going to work in this case? Same,
Yeah, that I believe we had a legal opinion on, like, there's the federal law kind of limits what we can review, so that still applies to this since it's the same type of use. So. I think that we can provide that same letter. We didn't ask for an update on it, but that same legal principle would apply.
well, just to comment then, it looks to me like
Yeah.
we need coverage in that area.
Mm-hmm.
It would be good to get an answer to the Munson Hospital, why that won't work for them, but,
Yeah, I think documenting that would make sense, and kind of more in spirit, like it's been described, but kind of document, okay, what were the concerns, why were they insurmountable, yeah.
The same could be asked for the concrete services too.
why
Do they not want to renew the lease?
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
does any of that impact this next spot?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any reason why we couldn't just ask staff to contact Munson Hospital to find out whether there's any chance of putting that train back on the track? And it seems very unusual, the way I read this letter of June 3rd, that they contacted Ranieri and repeatedly were ignored. That seems odd. And if Munson doesn't want it, nobody can make him have it, but it seems like it'd be very informative. Why not put it on top of a building that's already there? That would seem to be a wise solution if it's available. And if it isn't, I'd kind of like to know why not.
I mean, we can see what we can do. I don't know if we have, I mean, they gave one contact information, but, yeah, we can see what we can do.
Got a phone number for the Assistant General Counsel in Munson, I'd call it. And,
Yeah,
you know, what he's got to say.
right. Let's see if he picks up.
So we have the applicant step back up and answer as to whether you'd be able to provide that documentation and renderings, as well as the optimization of the setbacks and what your thoughts are on that. It looks like they're exceeding requirements currently, but I can't speak to the specific location on the site, et cetera, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
So, just touching on the setbacks, with the wetlands, conservation easement, and the no-cut, no disturbance line to the west of the property, we pretty much are limited to a very small footprint on the property that can be utilized to build the tower without hindering the current uses of the Olsen store. Not hindering the access path at the back of the property where trucks do turn around to make deliveries. So yeah, I mean, any movement of any significant shift in the site probably hinders the current use of the property with the grocery store, and probably places us in the conservation easement and the wetland, which we, for one, the conservation easement have to stay out of, but additionally, the wetland, we are required to be set back 25 feet from it, as shown in the site plan.
I just remembered I had one other question about the conservation easement as well, and I'm not sure exactly what's in it, but does it govern specifically the wetlands as an easement only over the wetlands, or is that an easement that governs activities on the whole of the property? And that could be a question for staff or...
From when we first looked at it, it seemed like it was, and I'd want to just double check it, but at least on first reading through it, it looks like it described the wetlands as they were, and they just also did it as a conservation easement. The issue is just being that because wetlands sometimes shift around, but legal descriptions don't shift around on their own, just to match, like, all right, did anything shift with the wetland that is somehow outside of that conservation easement?
Thank you. And then for the renderings, is that something that Atlas would be able to provide multiple vantage points? Because I think that would help folks. It's just hard to picture what this looks like from where your house is or where you're approaching it. What would that look like for Atlas to provide that to us?
Yes, we can provide that. It probably, when we do get back to Colorado, we'll have to contact our A&E vendors, but it's something that should take about 3 to 4 weeks to turn around.
Okay. And that'd be in time for the next, for our July meeting. Okay.
Is there interest in making a motion for findings of fact, and did we want to add any of these other pieces into that?
Do we want to wait and get this information before we proceed, or
Would that be an option?
how important are you
Up to you guys
feeling
to discuss.
So walk us through, if we go forward to findings of fact, then the steps from there are?
There's a couple different things. So if you motion us to prepare the findings, we can prepare them. We can also do them like subject to resolving any outstanding issues, if you wanted to wordsmith that. So if for some reason they didn't resolve something that we wanted to hear, we would say they did not meet that. We can, like, actually writing out the findings is, for staff, is relatively straightforward. It does take some time, but like, we've already kind of preliminary gone through all of the required parts of that Article 7 standard. So that's part of the findings, along with the criteria for PUD amendment. So kind of just going through one by one and saying, do they meet this or not? Now, if for any reason they don't meet any of them, you can also, if you receive findings, can either accept them or not, or say we need more information. But in terms of just preparing them, that is something that staff is, I think we are willing and able to do that if that's what Plan Commission wants us to do.
So we could either run that parallel, or we could go stepwise and table this until we have the renderings and the documentation. What's everybody's appetite at this point?
When does Concrete Service want them out of there?
It's a good question.
Yes, good question, which I did want to add to that. So AT&T is required to be off the building early 2027, so around the end of Q1 next year, which comes to the point of, with that letter that was provided with the submission, the question was asked, why did AT&T kind of just stop pursuing the option with the hospital? The reason for that is the need that the carrier has to get a solution built for them as soon as possible. Typically with our cell tower process, best case it takes 18 months to get a site built. In most cases it's about 24 to 36 months. And we are in this process trying to get through everything as quickly as we can, hence why we're going through the zoning process with the wetland delineation that I mentioned earlier going on at the same time, to just get the ball rolling and submit the additional requirements as soon as we do have them available to us. But all that to say, the carrier needs to have a solution by Q1 of next year, end of Q1 next year. And I can go back to them and see what sort of documentation they have with their communications with the hospital. But as I mentioned in the introductory meeting, I wasn't too sure that they did have any certified mail, but from the letter that was provided, clearly there are communications that by phone call, email, whatever, so I can see what tangible proof of communication that they do have with the hospital.
Okay.
Steve, do you feel that you have enough information to do a finding and not have to do it again?
I think if Plan Commission wants us to prepare the findings, I think we have enough information to prepare. If they wanted to do it like subject to resolving some issues, that gives us time to, or maybe some cover to say they're going to be working on a few things while we're preparing them. If we don't get them or there are gaps, we can note that. But I think we have enough to kind of start preparing the findings of fact.
So that's a no.
That's a no in terms of what?
The question was, do you have enough information to do it? And you're telling me no if you have to wait for more information.
I'm saying like we can. I'm saying we can prepare them, and like, because findings can be towards they can be supportive of approval or denial, or if as we're preparing them we find out we did not get the information that we know that they're working on, then we can bring that information back to. There's actually an agenda item later on where we were expecting additional information on an application that Plan Commission directed us to prepare findings. We did not get the information, so we did not do them at that point. But had we gotten that, we have enough, I think, to do findings. So I think that our preparation of them, I think, is very doable.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to specify, prepare findings of fact for application, the whole thing, to include documentation provided and renderings provided by the applicant?
I think if you wanted to include that, you could say something like, after the recommended motion, say like subject to the applicant providing documentation of communication and renderings of the proposed tower.
I agree that we could probably, I'm agreeable to move on with them as long as we have everything answered or like they have mentioned.
I am too.
Fine, too. Okay, I'll make the motion. I'll try to make the motion. Motion to direct staff to prepare the findings of fact for application SUP 1997-06-G submitted by Atlas Tower 1 LLC for a planned unit development major amendment for a wireless communication facility at 3850 North Long Lake Road on a portion of parcel 05-009-001-00 for review at the regular meeting of the Planning Commission on July 8th, 2026, subject to the applicant providing documents and renderings.
Support.
Okay, we've got a motion from Agostinelli and support from Robertson. Any other discussion?
One quick question. A member of the audience was asking if we could continue the public hearing, and in case the public might have some things they want to share with us based on things that we haven't seen yet, the information about Munson and the photorealistic photos. There's no reason we can't reschedule the public hearing or continue the public hearing, is there, if we...
I would say actually that, so as a plan unit development major amendment, if this, say the findings were accepted and you were forwarding this to the board, your major amendment of a PUD goes to the township board, so it would forward to them with a recommendation. They will also do a public hearing. So there will be another notice sent out at that time. I think rather than doing like another notice for like our own July meeting, it's mostly a follow-up to this public hearing, knowing that there's one, an additional public hearing, and two, it's still a public meeting, so anyone who is here or anyone who wasn't able to make it can still attend and see that. Our packets are still going to be online. But there's still plenty of opportunity for public comment and feedback. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just to clarify that for the public, that'll be potentially on the July 8th. If we receive these items, then public comment would be accepted in absence of a public hearing, but us receiving the findings of fact.
Mm-hmm.
And if we approve the findings of fact, that will go to the township board and they will have a public hearing at that time.
Correct.
All right, motion on the table and second. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Who seconded that, by the way?
Robertson,
Thank you. All right.
welcome back, Chair to Good.
Thank you, Vice Chair Yuli. You did such a wonderful job. All right. Well, with item A of old business closed, we'll move on to item B, PD 2026-86, Olson Foundation Site Condominium Public Hearing. And why don't you guys get us started?
Sure. This is a project submitted by the Olson Foundation to construct a site condominium located generally at the northwest corner of Rennie School Road and US 31. This is part of the Olson Foundation mixed-use development. And this site condominium is proposed to have 41 units or lots, and it's all of the area is zoned IG general industrial, so it's to create a industrial business park. And so not much has changed since the introduction. but we do have some comments about, at least on a couple of the units, but this is for consideration by the Planning Commission with recommendation to the Township Board. The Township Board is not required to do a public hearing. It's optional for a public hearing by the Township Board should they choose. So this is the primary public hearing for the site condominium.
Any thoughts or questions from the Planning Commission? And if not, we'll maybe ask the applicant to, I see that he'd like to step forward to the podium. But first, any comments concerns from the Planning Commission? All right, go ahead.
Anybody got any questions? I just wanted to be here to make sure that everybody's satisfied with everything. And
Well, it's a public hearing, so if you could kind of give an overview to the public so they know what you're talking about.
basically, yeah, since we don't have any maps or anything on the screens and all that, the development is 41 lots. It's I call it a second phase. It's the internal part of the property, light industrial, and the lot sizes are anywhere from half an acre up to an acre, and obviously somebody may want to combine the lots to make line adjustments if they want more acreage. But and it consists of a north-south road. We are trying to have that a public road, so it's accessible for Meadow Lane Trailer Park. People will have access to 31 through a stoplight at that point, and it'll be traffic controlled better. People won't have to enter US 31. They'll be able to use these interconnections and be on off-roads via, whether you're going to a grocery store, a hardware store, or a gas station, you won't even have to touch 31. There is an offset road that is the condominium portion of it. And that kind of sums it up. If anybody's got any questions.
I heard you say one thing, and it leads me to believe that you said something about the land purchasers could choose to or choose not to combine any of the parcels.
Well, yeah, if they was, if we've got them lotted out as 41 lots, and we've got, from our studies and stuff, there's a high demand for just like half-acre lots and stuff. But I could see a guy coming in and go, wow, I want 3 acres and I want it here.
Mm-hmm.
But those are half-acre lots. My feeling is, can he buy multiple lots to create his 3 acres or whatever he'd like?
So staff is suggesting that, and if I get this correctly, you're suggesting that we recommend that the applicant combine units 2 and 3 to provide a more buildable footprint.
Yeah, Unit 2 is kind of if you look on your site plan.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, so in the IG district, there's no parking in the front yard. Everything has to be at the side or the rear. So when you have that Unit 2 is kind of a triangle, it's a corner lot essentially. So when we were looking at siting a building on that site, and if you don't have any parking in the front,
Mm-hmm.
you basically have 2 fronts because it's a corner lot,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of really makes it pretty tight.
What's the acreage of that lot?
I think I
don't have it with me.
It is.
I was scanning through and I didn't find, oh wait, there it is. Actually, it's on sheet 7. It jumped right at me. It's a half an acre.
Yeah.
0.57.
I mean, it might be doable, but it's just, I know that we often run into those, mainly because of the IG requirements in terms of front yard
Would
restrictions.
there be limitations for the driveway access points relative to that intersection, recognizing that it would need to have an access point on Buffalo Drive or on Olson Boulevard? Would there be any limitations that would further restrict it? Or make it less billable because
Yeah,
of the
I mean,
entrance points?
mainly it's the front yard requirements in the IG that are really, So when we kind of scaled it out a little bit and looked at what you could build on there, it might work. I don't know. We find some of those kind of unusual shaped lots like that become pretty difficult. That was the only one that we kind of.
Would that be agreeable to combine those, or is that something you would?
Yeah,
object to?
but I'm going to give you a wisecrack. It's kind of ironic that you say this, because it was originally like that, and Jim Schmuckel instructed my engineer to split those because of the demand of those, and it literally cost me, I bet you, a month's worth of work, and if I know my engineer, a lot of money. And you guys want to reverse it back. I'm just sitting here going, ah!
Well,
But
we're not
whatever.
doing it from an engineer.
No, I mean,
doing
I
it from-
get it. I get your viewpoint. And, you know, if I can erase a lot line, it will not make my engineers realign sewer lines or realign water lines. They can still exist. So I think I'm all right. But there's
Well,
the
there's-
original shock to me going, oh.
So when you look at it, yeah, I know what you're talking about, because what you have to do is look at the IG.
No, I
requirements.
get exactly where you're saying,
Yeah.
and actually, I'd be glad to be the one commenting to between my engineer and my other cohort in real estate.
So-
But I want to verify, make sure you guys are talking the same thing. Show me,
2 and 3.
Two.
yeah. So combine those two, or yeah.
Or however you want. Maybe
Well,
it's
I
not
just gotta be
combining it,
ca-
maybe it can be moved over.
Yeah.
I just got to be careful, so I'm not realigning water and sewer, because those drawings are already done. And
Okay.
I mean,
So what I'm hearing is you're comfortable recognizing that staff is thinking that, well, this may not be as best a parcel as you could, that maybe there's a better parcel configuration. You're comfortable leaving how it is and putting the risk on the buyers, and if you end up with an empty lot 2, you're okay with that?
you know, these things work out, and I'm not quite sure how I'm following this, but I think, you know, if we need to do something with those 2 lots to make it work, and adjust a lot line and/or combine those,
Yeah.
we're good with that. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at the big picture, I'm not
Yeah.
worried about adjusting a lot line or something like that.
I don't
Am I
have any
worried
problem
about
either.
moving water and sewer lines at this point? Yeah, I'm a little scared.
Molly, you got something to add?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so if we needed to restrict the size of whatever building goes on there to accommodate the parking, would have to be on that 212 feet that's on the, where are we here? It runs along, where's north? Okay, it runs along the, would be the
East side of.
east side of that. So if we needed to restrict the size of the, whatever unit gets built there in order to accommodate the parking, and it has to be along that line, that's the only place it can be. On it, we could restrict it when the time comes. I guess. I mean, it would be nice to rectify it ahead of time and make it more
Let's look at
buildable, but
that.
if,
I mean, I'm kind of open to looking at it.
yeah.
That's fine, we could take,
I'm just.
John and Steve,
Sorry,
this-
do you guys, I just work with these 2 guys and see what we can work up with and get that adjusted.
This could also be approved, and during the course of development, if it's unsatisfactory to combine the lots as they are, and Olson wanted to come in with a they could move and revise the master deed at a later date, right?
Yeah, there's been some adjustments to industrial site condos. I think Hammond Commerce Center was the most recent one, as it kind of gets built out. Some have done multiple lots, some have adjusted lot lines, so it's, I think it's something that's doable, and people can own multiple lots, as you said, and can either combine or use them as a, one thing that might be helpful in that endeavor is to actually put the setback lines, like as a dashed line, like here's your
On
buildable
those ones.
footprint, yeah.
Just so they know.
Just so they know, and that
Yeah,
helps you ahead of
you know,
time.
I have my real estate license and I do a lot of commercial stuff.
Yeah.
But Jim being my cohort, says the demand's there for those smaller lots, and that's what's selling right now. And that's how
if
those
someone
lots got
thinks they can make it
split up
work
to little
and-
tiny things.
Yeah,
I'm
if
like,
someone thinks they can
okay.
make it work, then yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I feel
that
like
being
we,
said,
yeah, I feel like we've got enough information, and probably, if there's no more questions, we can open to public hearing, and then just, I wanted to make sure we understood, you know, the circumstances of that condition, if we want to add it. I feel like we have enough information. We can open it for public hearing. John?
Yeah, just want to note that while there's not a minimum lot size, there is a minimum lot width, so it's 150. So 3 is already at 150 feet wide, so it's not a matter of just like sliding it over.
Understood. Okay.
I think if it just takes another look at it, that would be helpful. I mean, if they're fine with it,
We don't need to make it a condition, is kind of what I'm getting at, right?
fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. We ready to open it for public hearing?
I had another
Oh, go ahead,
comment.
Ben.
I'm happy to see the park easement. My question was for staff is, do we have any things in our zoning ordinance that require public use land in these types of developments, or even residential lot split developments?
We do not, and that's actually not part of the site condo, it's part of the overall plan. So you're referring to that where it says park easement on the west side of Olson Boulevard. So that would be outside the site condo, but no, we don't have any. We have open space requirements for certain developments like multifamily and so forth, but they're not necessarily dedicated park space. We don't have any provisions for that. So like if that was, I think, I'm
And
not
this
sure what
could,
their
this
intent is.
maybe could be brought up at a plan, not a public hearing, but a planning in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that parcel that the parking easement on is the one that's zoned R3, I believe.
High density.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, it's taken up by the high density, and I figured that combination, you know, there's always people, throw a couple park benches in there, and people around the area want lunch outside and stuff, they can use it.
So it can kind
And
of
plus, it
serve
might
the-
be
yeah.
serve the south end of that high-density housing once we build that. And I'll have some park access within that, too.
But it's not a component of what we're looking at tonight, 'cause it's not
Correct.
part of it
Right.
yet. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
It's information for the future.
Okay. Perfect.
All right, we'll open it for public hearing. Anybody who'd like to make a comment, please step up to the podium, state your name and address, and have your comment be heard. Seeing no one rushing to the podium, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the Planning Commission for further discussion and consideration of the recommended action. John?
I think my only question, and this is probably more directed to staff, is I understand the north-south new road is going to be a public road. The other two are supposed to be private roads. It seems like on occasion we're having some issues with private roads and different people that are buying acreage and want to develop property and use somebody else's pre-existing private road. It strikes me that things can change in the future from what is being laid out at the time we're approving something, and there may be future people who are going to have interest in using these roads that may or may not be signatories to any maintenance agreement or anything like that. Any thoughts on the staff's part about that, or and the wisdom of going with private roads versus public roads?
Well, I'll be honest with you, it's been a real struggle just to get the Olson Boulevard accepted as a public road. I don't think the road commission wants to take on particularly any local roads. And how it was mentioned to us is that if it's a road that's connecting two county roads, which is Rennie School and Meadow Lane, then they would consider accepting that. There are challenges to private roads, but in case of a site condominium, it's usually set up to do, first of all, they will have to do private road, meet our private road standards, so they'll have to be, in terms of the design of the private road, we'll have to meet those requirements and review by the township engineer. And then we do require maintenance agreements, and those are typically embedded as part of the condominium documents. So it's maybe not the best way, but I think in terms of maintenance of these, but it's what we see mostly development happening is use of private roads.
So back on that private road issue, that Buffalo Drive is private, going out there to 31. If the rest of this undeveloped area gets developed by, let's just say, a different developer, gets sold, is that for sure always going to be open to the future development to the west? And that's kind of what John was asking. So that private road, does it have enough documentation where you would never have any of them, people from that association, trying to stop the people from the west to use it?
Yes. I mean, that's how we.
You have that, you
Yeah,
feel
that's how
safe
when
or
we.
confident?
Yeah, these are designed to be essentially functioning in that manner.
Okay, so that there'd be no, if the development got split up, it would be nothing, no problems, is what you're getting at. or-
I mean, that's how we look at it when we're looking through the condominium documents and making sure that's in place like that.
Okay.
And then what is now Buffalo Drive, is that, or what's shown as Buffalo Drive, connects back to like Olson Commerce, back towards US 31. Do the two ones that are unplatted, that front that, do they have access coming off of that, or is all theirs coming off of Olson Commerce Drive? Like, I believe there's the Once Upon a Child.
They are off that private, or
Okay.
Once Upon a Child has a entrance off of the private road, and Action Water Sports has it off the Commerce Park.
Okay.
And also a driveway, but mostly maintenance type
Okay.
off of the private.
Okay, yeah. Just like anyone else with access or frontage, seeming like they would be, it would make sense to be party to some
They'll be
agreement.
party to that
Okay, yep,
private road
all right,
association.
okay.
I guess I'm thinking, skim through the master deed and the other documents. First of all, kind of following on your question, John, with regard to the private roads, I think people are often, I believe, under the misconception, or perhaps I am, but you can't just, if you have a private road, you can't just put up a gate and only accommodate the use of the private inholders of the site condominium. You have to provide for the passage of the public across the private road, correct?
Correct.
And is that, and so then, this leads me to my next question. Skimming through it, I'm not really seeing where that's stated, and I'm wondering, because we haven't, as a planning commission, looked at a master deed or a site condominium agreement in a while, I'm just wondering, has our legal, the township's legal staff, not staff, but our legal consultant, review these documents? And would it be appropriate for them to do so if they haven't?
They have not reviewed them, but they could.
Would it be typical for there to be a legal review to make sure that there's nothing, certainly not that you would slip something in there but perhaps we could have missed something that is inconsistent with the zoning ordinance?
We do a lot, there is reviews, just trying to think if legal counsel's listed in here. Because we do look through items, particularly when there's changes to condominium docs.
We do have it on our escrow form, like if we needed to retain that as part of gathering information to make findings.
I'm only really interested
yeah.
if it's appropriate.
Yeah.
And if there's any, if we have oversight in any regard to the language in the master deed or the condominium bylaws. And if the planning commission has no role in, the language in either of those documents, I mean, certainly I don't feel that I have the requisite skill to review the language. And then my additional thought would be, if we had to have legal review, I would still recommend that I think it would be appropriate for staff to still proceed with finding a fact within the recommended action. It's just that the legal review should also take place concurrently.
Yeah, there is provisions for, like, what it's classified as independent review, so whether it's an engineer or other reviews that are done for it.
Molly?
My understanding The master deed does not supersede the ordinances of the township. If the township allows and requires access on those roads, they can write whatever they want in there, but they can't do it. I think that that's correct.
No comment?
So, you could put in short-term rentals or whatever it is, but we have ordinances against that, and so you couldn't do it.
Okay.
So that access has to be provided. That's my understanding.
Okay.
And Molly, I don't mean to just tie it to access only. I guess I'm just generally wondering if, if legal staff should take a look at it before we approve it.
I don't know. We've done 4 subdivisions. I don't think it's traditional for the township's legal staff to look at our bylaws or any of those, but I suppose they say you could, but it's not normal.
Yeah, I think I'm often one of the ones that, like you're doing now, maybe calls out whether we should have legal counsel look at something, but I got the same recollection Molly just stated. It seems like we don't typically have counsel reviewing this sort of stuff. We don't have any control over what people say in their master deeds or their bylaws, but as Molly hit the nail right on the head, they can't trump the ordinance. So.
Okay. I'm satisfied then. I appreciate that input from both of you.
I just wanted to clarify, so on what you're saying was that a private road on a site condo cannot be restricted to the private use of those residents or owners only?
Right.
Okay. Are they also prevented from, well, this is a separate question for later. This is not related to this. Thank you.
And we'll-
Anticipate that's
well,
going to be.
As part of the review, we'll, in preparation of the findings, we can verify that for the benefit of the planning commission.
Hate to belabor it. You could have a driveway to 2 or 3 pieces of property that you don't have to share with everybody.
Understood. That's like a limited common element would
That's
be
a
what
little
that would
something
be.
different
But common
than-
elements within a site condo development would still allow for public access across, whether it be motorized or non-motorized.
That's my understanding.
Thank
That's
you.
my understanding.
Any further discussion, or is anybody ready to make a motion? John?
I'll make the motion. I think without the recommendation that was drafted about combining the 2 units, I think we decided we probably don't need to make that recommendation. They'll figure things out. So I'll make the motion that we direct staff to prepare findings of fact for application SRP 2026-08, submitted by William Crane on behalf of the Olson Foundation for a site condominium for the Olson Foundation development, parcel 05032001009, for review at the regular Planning Commission meeting on July 8th, 2026.
Support.
We have a motion by Racine with support by Augustinelli. Is there any further discussion? Hearing-
You don't care about the combining of those 2 lots?
It sounds like, I thought that our consensus was we're not going to force that. If they decide they want to do it, fine. If they don't,
Okay.
they may have a challenge with what they can do with it, but that's up to the property owner.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
All right, next we are on to old business item C, PD 2026-87, Sugar Plum Apartments, special use permit, major amendment, findings of fact.
And as alluded to, it's labeled findings of fact because the Planning Commission had directed staff to prepare findings of fact subject to resolution of some items that were identified in the previous staff report. This is for Sugar Plum Apartments, by the way, off of Garfield Road. And as I kind of alluded to earlier, we reached out to the applicant, did not hear back from, did not receive any updated materials, so these are still outstanding. And it was at least slightly odd that we did not hear back at all. Like, not even like, I'm working on them, but it's going to take more time. Like, we kind of went radio silent. So I don't know if something fell apart. Hopefully he's okay. Like, I haven't heard from him in a while, but sort of no news. There's really no action to take, and it's one of those where, had we gotten it, it's straightforward to put together findings, but since we didn't get anything, there's nothing to do.
So then the only recommended action is a motion to table.
Yeah.
There's no questions from the commission. Would anybody like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to table application SUP-1994-08-C to allow the applicant to resolve the outstanding items needed prior to the planning commission's consideration of the findings of fact.
Support?
We have a motion by Robertson with support by Fudge. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The motion passes. All right, with that, we're moving on to new business, starting off with item A, PD 2026-88, Jones R1 rezoning introduction.
This is a parcel on Northwest Silver Lake Road, and extending kind of to the west boundary of the township. Applicant approached us, has kind of some ideas for their property. Is currently zoned as rural residential, which has the 1 acre minimum lot size. I believe is 1 acre minimum lot size. Has some kind of proposals to potentially split their property. They're well over that at the moment, although the way they wanted to split it up involved kind of this smaller parcel up towards the front of the road, and then doing a kind of splitting off the back, and then having kind of the remainder as the front that has the current house on it. The piece that is brought to Planning Commission, since lot splits are a administrative application, the one they wanted to do is too small to be in the rural residential district, but would meet the R1 district. But since you can't create a parcel that would create a non-conforming situation, the proposal was to rezone this portion. And it would at least temporarily create a split zoning, but with the intention that someone's going to create a parcel out of the legal land described by the legal description in this application. So it's it does border. There's a mix of both RR, rural residential, and R1 zoning in this area, although mostly R1, especially the further south you go along Silver Lake or West Silver Lake Road and across the road, and it does happen to border an R1 piece just to the north of it. But kind of everything to the back is more of the larger parts of the parcels that are RR. But that's kind of what was brought to us, and it's just an introduction. The only recommended action, if Planning Commission desires, is to set a public hearing.
What's the Planning Commission's desire, questions, or thoughts?
Do you guys have any need for him to also do parcel B? I mean, is that big enough, or what would be the standard procedure on that?
Still big enough. Sure.
Yeah, I think parcel B being 1 acre is still big enough. Yeah.
Keep it the way it is.
Yeah, so at least for the moment, it would create, A is what's in, would be subject to this rezoning and created with R1, and then the other two would stay as rural residential. They also would need the private easement if they're going to create one in the back to actually create like a private road or private drive to create that access.
Chris?
I'm sorry, Molly, go ahead.
Wouldn't we have to know that access before we split that, make that a parcel?
For parcel B and C, you would, but that's the administrative, because those would stay as their current zoning. The only thing being applied for is the parcel A.
Yeah, but you're gonna make C a separate parcel. You can't landlock a piece, create a piece landlocked, so how do you get to C?
They would have to create that when they make an application for actually doing the lot split.
When they actually do
Yeah.
the split?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
John?
I see no reason not to go ahead and schedule it for a public hearing myself.
The only thing I'm wondering is, with regard to that, staff has pointed out that the applicant has the burden of justifying the amendment and responding to items 1 through 8. And I'm wondering, don't we typically have that document at the time at which we would schedule a public hearing? Otherwise, I agree. It's just
Right.
a sense of, is it a complete application when those items are not addressed by the applicant?
But they are.
Just kind of doing like a cover memo, just having them cover or respond to those.
I mean,
But they're all 8, there's none of them that look like a problem, right? I mean, is that not for us to decide?
I'm thinking of it just as a documenting, and it's procedural more than it is anything else. I mean, what if they make some wild claim that, is inappropriate for us to consider it? I don't know. I mean, it seems pretty obvious to me on the surface.
I think just having them do like a cover memo, which is pretty typical in applications. Some of them respond point by point, but even just explaining like, here's why we're bringing this amendment or zoning ordinance amendment to you. Here's why we think it's justifiable. So they make a case and then we review their case.
John?
I don't think that would militate against going ahead and scheduling the public hearing. We can still schedule a public hearing, see whether what they've submitted, and that may have some bearing on what happens after the public hearing, but.
Okay. All right. Any other
If that's the case,
thoughts?
I'll make the motion unless,
I had one caution, I guess. I'm worried about the well and septic. If they do plan to put another house on here, they need to verify the locations of the well and septic just for safety reasons.
I know, a land split, they'll have to deal with the health department. Right? So that'll get all taken care of. I'll make that motion then, that application Z 2026-03 submitted by James C. Jones to rezone a portion of parcel number 05-030-025-00 at 1361 North West Silver Lake Road from its current zoning of the RR Rural Residential Zoning District to the R1 One Family Zoning District, Residential Zoning District, be scheduled for a public hearing for the July 8th, 2026 Planning Commission regular meeting.
Support.
Motion by Robertson with support by Fudge. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion passes. All right, next item of business. New business, item B, PD 2026-89, White Pine Ridge Site Condominium Introduction.
So this is another site condominium. This is introduction. This is for, it's actually on 2 existing parcels located at the north end of Zimmerman Road, just north of Brookside Commons PUD and just immediately east of the Lone Tree PUD. So this is a site, actually, there it was presented to you back for conceptual review last summer. There was some feedback given. Certainly, the preceding development that was on the site was a site condominium called Harris Hills, which had lapsed since it was never constructed. That was for 40 single-family lots. This is for 40 two-family dwelling units or duplexes, so a total of 80 dwelling units on 19.81 acres. I can go into more detail on the report, or do you want to hear from the...
Anybody got any questions, or should we hear from the applicant? Go ahead.
Hi, thanks. got some additional information.
Oh, boy, paper. Hey.
Well, the architect provided some renderings this afternoon that I could not share. They turned out really pretty cool, so. Actually, I think we get all of those, the whole pile of those.
You got a whole pile of
So I also have one other item that I didn't see in the packet that I believe is pertinent. There's a May 27th email letter from the Lone Tree subdivision next door.
The correspondence.
Oh, this is in our
It was in the
Yeah, it's in the
packet.
packet.
It was in your correspondence? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So thank you for having us. My name's Jeff Cockfield with Grant Travers Engineering, here representing Vistara LLC. They purchased the 20 acres just north of the Zimmerman Road turnaround, I guess let's call it, and just south of Lone Tree Road. Also abuts to the Lone Tree PUD site condominium to the west. As John mentioned, we're proposing 40 duplex units, two-family units, for a total of 80 units on the 20 acres, which is approximately 4 units per acre. The project's served by public sewer and water. I've had preliminary conversations with the road commission about the project, mostly as a finding of fact for us to determine their willingness to consider removing the turnaround easement that they use for snow plows at the end of Zimmerman Road. And they said they were willing to work with us as long as they could get the plows turned around. So they didn't seem to have any issues with a driveway connection to Zimmerman or a driveway connection to Lone Tree Road. Part of that conversation also, I'm sure you're all interested in, kind of diverted into the conversation of the connection from Zimmerman up to Harris Hills. And they were curious if we are interested and supportive of that, and we are. We're not opposed to, the road commission pursuing that. It really doesn't affect our project because the two main water main lines that run along the east property line really prevent it from being on our property. It's going to have to either straddle that east line or be primarily on the property to the east. But we think it's a good idea and we're not opposed to that. We have a review from the fire department. I believe that was in your packet. They didn't see any issues with the development as it's laid out. I guess the elephant in the room is the connection to Lone Tree. My client and the Lone Tree development, neither are interested in having that connection. I found the conversation kind of interesting earlier about Olson's and whether or not private roads can be accessed by other people or not, and we think it solves this by just not making the connection, because now you're putting maintenance costs onto Lone Tree from people that are cutting through Zimmerman Road and vice versa. We just don't think it's necessary personally, and we have the two connections to Zimmerman and Lone Tree Road, so we figured that's adequate, as the fire department did as well. I've talked with Gordy Frazier already about some of the stormwater design and the utilities, the sewer and water, and they didn't seem to have any issues with their preliminary layout and profiles that I have for the utilities. I do want to work with them on the size of that stormwater basin. As you can see, that takes up a lot of room in the northeast corner. It's back-to-back 100-year storms because there's no outlet. We were kind of hoping we could utilize part of that as park area, but the stormwater ordinance really forcing us to put a big crater in the ground there. So hopefully we can work with them and get that reduced in the future. And I guess with that, I'll answer any questions.
John?
I think the second elephant in the room is what happens to the trees along the west and the south.
Well, the west really are mostly in or near that water easement that we aren't going to encroach on. So I don't see Oh, excuse me, that was the east. You
That's
said the
east.
west.
Yeah, the west, but bordering Lone Tree.
I guess the trees that are required to be removed for grading and getting the stormwater and drainage to go where we want along that west property line will be replaced with a landscaping plan that we can certainly provide in the future. The south is really a high hill that abuts I guess, next to the Brookside development there. We could certainly landscape these backyards, however, per the landscape ordinance, or however we want to heavily buffer it. We're not opposed to the landscaping and buffering, or replacing trees.
I think I'd have a hard time with the west buffer being removed. It's already there, just so you can maximize whatever you can put on the property and then plant brand-new little trees. That's not going to do the people that live in Lone Tree already and have had this buffer for a long time. They're going to suddenly have a development of 40 units right next door with no realistic buffer. And I've got a problem with that. And I think under the criteria that were laid out in staff's report, that's an important criteria that we can
Was it
do something about.
keeping the buffer or providing buffer? I guess I don't have it.
Well, I think what's not clear is where the grading limits end and what trees would be preserved, or if the grading limits are right along the property line and basically the entire parcel is going to be clear cut.
That's a correct statement. I mean, the mass grading of the site, it's a very undulating site, both north and south and east and west. So to get the road profiles and the driveways, I don't know if you can look at the grading plan, some of the driveways are 9% and some are 2%, just because the way the land undulates between north, south, and east and west. The reality is that we are going to pretty much clear cut everything and in order to mass grade it and make the road system work and make the units work. So, putting other landscape buffering back in is certainly something we're willing to do. As far as keeping the trees that are there, I don't believe that's something that's going to be feasible under this layout.
So that's the reference to there's
Item
a
3.
Yeah, there's a set of criteria in section 429 that talks about how they apply to the site condo subdivision, and then there's number 3, which says that as many natural features of the landscape shall be retained as possible, particularly where they furnish a barrier or buffer between the project and adjoining properties, used for dissimilar purposes, and where they assist in preserving the general appearance of the neighborhood or help control erosion or the discharge of stormwaters.
We can certainly look at that west property line, and
There's also the south property line as well.
So John, you're suggesting that, John Syke, you're suggesting that the applicant hasn't provided substantive information as to, I don't remember the language now, why nothing's being preserved, or why couldn't anything be preserved?
Correct. Yeah, and for the way it's shown here, there's, it's basically going to be clear cut to the property lines.
I guess I'd be curious to know how much from the west property line would be required if those trees were to be preserved. How much land are we talking? What's the dimension east-west? And then is it realistic to then consider clear cutting east of that point but save those trees? It's going to probably cost some units, but you still got to comply with this item 3 of the ordinance, which I don't see being complied with if there's already a bunch of nice trees there.
And at a minimum, a case isn't even being made. There's no documentation to support why we should accept this, right?
That doesn't pass my muster yet.
Yeah, I mean, there is sheet 3, existing conditions and removals. So it's showing a tree pattern in there that I don't believe is what's current. I think that's what was previous, because there was some clearing on the site before Harris Hills was done. There was more extensive trees on there, so it was essentially, the center part was cleared out. So when I'm looking at and seeing the tree canopy in that particular sheet on number 3, that's not how it is currently.
That's a current topo from Gordy Fraser, so I'm assuming that tree line is accurate, but I can double check that, John.
Well, I can look at the aerial that's in the report, and it's just, for instance, it's showing a cluster of trees down the middle and then to the farther to the north. And I look in the aerial, it doesn't seem to match up unless I'm interpreting that wrong.
But what we don't have is on that existing conditions and removals, Jeff, wouldn't you usually show what trees are going to be removed?
I can certainly do that.
Okay.
The reality is, it's going to be the bulk of them.
All of them.
I'll certainly look at the west building lines and try to match those to existing grades as much as possible, so that from the building to the west property line can be the existing trees and the existing buffer there. The reality is, though, to put a basement in, they're going to need, some space to work. So best case scenario, we may be able to keep 5 feet of what is, I'm guessing, 20 feet or so. So we'll certainly look at it and see if we can do a better job of keeping some of the trees that are along that west and south line.
Kara?
So the way that you guys feel about the trees, I feel a little bit about the connectivity, and I'm struggling with it because both parties are saying we don't want to be connected, but the zoning ordinance, the 521G, has that requirement that there be that internal connectivity, and from what I'm starting to learn about transportation planning, that's important stuff. So I'm struggling a little bit with the idea that nobody wants the connection, but we're saying the connection is the right thing for the community in general in our neighborhoods.
And I agree. And I would even add that, despite the fact that the neighbors don't want it, some of the neighbors, I don't know, there's one Lone Beach Drive residence that was previously allowed, predicated on there being a road in front of it, and if that road wasn't going to be connected to anything, it's just a dead end. This plan anticipated that connection, and just a letter that says, hey, we don't want this, or forgive me, but the applicant's saying we don't want it either, it's nothing for us to hang our hat on as a planning commission to say, oh, okay, you guys don't want it, you don't have to do it. I mean, we would be in a violation of our own ordinance, on our own previous approvals, if we were to say that's evidence to support that the connection's not required.
To go along with this, how did the fire department review it? Did they review it with the connection or without the connection? Because when I first looked through the documents, it seemed like the connection was there. Then you get further into it, seems like it went away somehow.
The fire department reviewed this plan, this layout, without the connection.
So I thought last time we visited this, excuse me, there was no doubt it was going to be connected. We weren't even going to bring up this discussion anymore. Is that kind of the way? Okay. And then my concern about the thing is I was wondering if you could go to maybe a 2-story and get them houses, or get them smaller, but I think you need walking trails down through there, because your neighboring subdivision has them, and your people from here are going to be over there walking. I think they need you need some kind of trails in this system, or in this whole plan or development.
I would say the same thing for parks. I grew up in a pretty urban area, well, not grew up, but I lived in a pretty urban area where I could walk my kids to 6 different parks. I can't do that in Garfield Township. It's a bit frustrating. Every time I walk around my neighborhood, I see kids playing outside, and I wish we had a park to play in. And I know our zoning ordinance doesn't
Yeah, it really doesn't provide.
require anything for lot divisions like this, where I think it would be an add to the community if there was a public park or public walking paths.
There are just no amenities at all, period.
Correct.
Anyone else?
I'm with you. Add that kind of thing to the study session discussion list of what can we leverage for amenities within, especially SUPs and PUDs, where we have those opportunities.
John?
Chris, as I read the report from staff, I think it was on page 3, if I've got the right page, but you have in our township records, you've got an as-built drawing somewhere submitted by whoever did the work in 2005 that's verifying to the township that Lone Beach Road is paved right up to the property line.
Correct.
And as I'm looking at this site plan in front of us with this application, it looks like the pavement stops short of the property line. Is it, did somebody misrepresent the as-is on the ground stuff to us when things got approved in 2005? And if so, what do we do about this little gap?
Well, in the case of, so, I mean, obviously, the right-of-way is built that way. I mean, it wasn't built as a cul-de-sac there. It was built to be a through street to connecting to the east. That's the way the PUD was laid out with the intent. There was a larger plan at some point initially to have an extension all the way over to a Zimmerman Road that would be extended. So that was the kind of the layout. When it was actually built, obviously, it's about 30 feet short. So when Harris Hills went through this process before and we went through this same argument, it was kind of the same issue with Brookside Commons. When Brookside Commons went in, there was resistance to have a connection to go from Lone Tree over to Zimmerman Road. That connection did occur, so this is a very similar situation. And I believe in the case, if I recall right, when Harris Hills was going to actually pave that that small strip there to connect to it.
So if we were to disallow it, would be, if we were to change what we previously approved for the last development, it would be another change in what we're doing. We would be inconsistent.
Yeah, I mean, when the Township Board approved Harris Hill site condominium, it was with a connection to the Lone Tree PUD.
And the zoning ordinance hasn't changed since then.
So, I mean, the takeaway for me is,
Part of it anyway.
to communicate to you guys, is that, not having a connection is a non-starter for this planning commission.
So we create an easement to our west property line, and we stub a road out to the west property line. We're not going to pave that 30 feet. Lone Tree doesn't want to pave that 30 feet, so there's going to be a 30
It's going to get done.
Okay.
It was going to get done for the last development that tried to develop this parcel. It was agreed to, that project got approved. That's not going to be a reason for this planning commission to say, oh, we don't know how we're going to get that paved. You don't have to do it. There's nothing that this planning commission is going to accept as evidence to not do this. So,
If it's a non-starter, it's a non-starter.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're just trying to be honest, so you guys
I
don't
appreciate
spin
it.
your wheels and waste
I
time.
appreciate it. That's fine.
So, Molly, go ahead.
Well, let's just clarify that. He's saying they're not gonna pave that 30 feet. When the previous development that came in, they were gonna pave that 30 feet. It was part of the things that they had to do in order to get approval to do the subdivision. So that is something we're just not gonna let float by.
Right.
He's not gonna be able to just pave to his lot line and stop. He's
Right.
going to be required to go that 30 feet.
So
There's an easement there to do it.
it's a private easement for Lone Tree, I believe. I'm just playing this scenario out loud, that
Yeah.
you're gonna ask us, or force us, however you want to say it, to pave on someone else's property. Okay.
And Jeff, I would just reiterate, it got figured out last time for the last development. Whatever got done before can be applied to this development, or it can be revised.
Okay.
We do have legal counsel opinion on that, because we ran through this same thing before. We can provide that as well in that
Great.
particular case.
Any other comments on the connection? I had one question about, I counted 22 or 11 of the duplexes, but 22 homes would be serviced by private grinder pump stations.
Correct.
And that would be very unusual for our township.
The way
And-
that this land drops into the northeast, the sanitary connection is on Lone Beach, ironically, and it runs east to Zimmerman, and then we have two sanitary gravity runs going north up the two road systems. We run out of ground, basically.
Yeah, I completely understand that.
And so, actually, it was a conversation with Gordy Frazier that it's like, do we want a public lift station? Township, they basically said, Township doesn't want another public lift station. So we worked through some different scenarios, and Jennifer said, how about some individual grinder stations for these units? And made good sense to us, because then that cost gets pushed onto those homeowners that want those.
And that's exactly what I'm concerned about. And I'm surprised that our engineering consultant suggested that we should, as a planning commission, approve placing the burden of ownership and maintenance of that infrastructure on each of those individual homeowners. I realize it's fairly common in low-pressure sewer systems, or there are many other systems where it's appropriate. I just see that it's being uncommon in our township, and I'm wondering, I recognize that there's a high cost associated with a developer constructing a public lift station for just 22 homes. And perhaps, I guess I'd like to get the opinion from township engineer through staff about what the benefits to the township are of accepting this scenario. My knee-jerk reaction is that I'm concerned about the individual homeowners being responsible for that, maintenance, replacement of the pumps, service lines, and at a minimum, again, my knee-jerk reaction is I'd rather see a common element where those 22 homeowners have a shared interest in perhaps a single pump station that's appropriately sized for their purpose, and then perhaps the homeowners association is responsible for one single pumping system rather than 22. That's my only thought. I'd like to be further explored.
That's fine. That's a perfectly good, acceptable scenario, too. I mean, we'll work with Gordy Frazier on that. If that's something that the planning commission would rather see, then we'll talk to her about it.
Joe, I saw you looking up like you had something to say.
No, I just wondered how you felt about the other, the connectivity or with some trails and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I think there should be some more amenities. It'd be nice to see some more amenities. I really appreciate 80 homes, single-family homes, rather duplex, 80 homes, really valuable asset for our community, for people who want to live in Garfield Township. I'm just speaking for myself, I don't know about the rest of the planning commission, we're really excited about this development and, these homes coming to our community. But I think we'd like to see maybe a balance struck between some of the concerns we have, some of the needs we see the development, needing, and the total number of units. We're willing, we'd like to see maybe fewer units, or if you could reconfigure it to make it work better, that would be good.
We're not opposed to, I don't want to say sidewalks, but foot traffic paths, or whatever you want to call them. Just kind of wanted to get your first take on it.
Where does the safe routes to schools fit in here? I know West Senior High is pretty close. I know there's a trail just to the south between the houses. Is there any larger trails plans or direction that we give them as a township?
No, there isn't, and the non-motorized plan that we have doesn't have anything identified in this particular area. But you're right, there are, through the Lone Tree PUD, there's pedestrian access that goes over to the high school.
It'd be nice to connect this community to that path so that kids don't have to walk through backyards to get to high school or take.
Or on the edge
school.
of the road.
Yeah.
Add it to that study session list of if we're doing over X number of units in the development, connectivity for pedestrians for kids matters. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, making a big list.
Anybody have any other
No,
thoughts?
I'm good with it.
John?
I have a question just regarding the extension of Zimmerman Road. One thing that was, when the Harris Hills development was approved, they were offering easement for that extension of that road right away. So I guess that's the question. Is there any interest to provide for an easement for the extension of Zimmerman?
I don't think there's an opposition. It would land right on top of the water easement, so, I mean, it's.
There's the water easement, but then there's the water main location, and I think it was offset for that purpose. Didn't understand that it was at some point going to be extended in the future, but I just was wondering, because we didn't see any communication or anything like that. I was just wondering.
I've offered to the road commission that made the most sense to me to straddle our east line and put 33 feet on the property to the east, and we'd be willing to do 33 feet on our property.
Okay.
So, yes, to answer your question, we're open to an easement.
Okay.
And if that easement, I think we all agree we want to see that easement, right?
Yes.
And would it be appropriate to have the road commission weigh in on whether the easement that's being provided is adequate for them to build a future road?
It's my understanding that the road commission has issued an RFP, either as a study or some preliminary design work for this Zimmerman extension. So if someone wants to reach out to them and find out the status of that.
Staff?
Yeah,
I saw Chuck and Alicia at an event, and they said that they issued an RFP, and I'm like, great. So,
Well, and then all the more reason that we want to make sure that the easement you provide is sufficient to provide for, whatever that future road is.
exactly. There's a lot of moving parts with this. Is that Samuelson that's to the east, I think, or who's that to the east? I forgot.
I forget, maybe.
It was.
It was.
I
They
believe
sold
it
it.
still is.
Anyways, there's a road that angles, that splits that property.
Harris Road.
Pardon me?
I believe it's Harris Road.
Yeah, anyways, but
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
road
Harris.
commission was gonna approach that property owner and see about a swap, abandon that road, and put the Zimmerman extension entirely on his land. So that's why the easement, we're not opposed to it, but I think the road commission's RFP and preliminary design and study, I think is gonna show that road needs to be a little bit further east than what we're showing.
So
Yeah, the alignment obviously doesn't match up. It is gonna, it's gonna veer to the east, it's gonna have to. And
It's
that's
gonna have, there's a big hole there.
Yeah.
Right. And that's also why when you follow that, the water main, it does the
It does
same
that
as
job.
well.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. John?
Chris, I think on that same topic, I'd like our staff to contact the road commission directly
Yes,
to get this
agreed.
information, rather than we get told so-and-so said such and such. I'd like to hear it from Steve or John.
Yep. I'd appreciate that, guys. Jeff, do you feel like you've gotten enough feedback
I've
from
got
us?
some
I know
great
you've gotten a
feedback.
lot of feedback from us.
Got a lot of feedback. Thank you very much. So, appreciate all of your comments, and we'll circle the wagons and huddle up and be back. Thanks
So,
again.
anybody ready to make that motion, or is there any further discussion we want to have?
I'll make a motion that application SPR 2026-89 submitted by Jeff Cockfield on behalf of Vistara LLC for a site condominium on parcels 05-008-022-02 and 05-007-021-00, be tabled until conformance with Section 429G Site Condominium Subdivision Review and Section 521G Connectivity, specifically road connections and preservation of tree buffers, is addressed. Do we need to add anything else? We good with that?
We covered it all?
Well, there were some additional things, but I think generally they all fall within the criteria that's in 429 and 521.
Very good.
I'll support the motion.
We have a motion by Yuli with support by Racine. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion passes. Look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda, item C, PD 2026-90, zoning ordinance, proposed amendment, moratorium procedure, and this is an introduction. Take it away, staff.
Yeah, so this is, I mean, you saw this text presented to you previously, so this is being presented as a formal introduction to an amendment to the Township zoning ordinance to insert a provision, we're calling it Section 409 because it's in the procedural section, but this would be moratorium by resolution. This would allow the town board to impose a temporary moratorium on the review and issuance of any applications, permits, rezonings, licenses, or approvals for existing, new, or emerging land uses in the township. And basically, to have that as a by resolution. So this would work for, as we were previously discussing since the beginning of this year, data centers, but it could be if some other use were to come up where the township felt did not have adequate standards and requirements and so forth, that this could be inserted simply by a resolution of the township board in accordance with this section that would be a part of the zoning ordinance. So this is an introduction with this recommendation for scheduling a public hearing on July 8th.
My first question for you, John, is does 12 months give you enough time to make edits to the zoning ordinance and get it into follow the proper procedures to get edits to the zoning ordinance into the zoning ordinance?
I believe it does. They do have that 6-month added provision, so they could go 18. I think it's one of those things you have to be careful of because there isn't any state statute that's specific to this. I think it's how long a moratorium can go is something you have to be careful with. But I would say typically when we've done text amendments, they're usually done in roughly 6 months. Granted, this might take a little bit more time, but I think we've had some previous discussion that in terms of some of the issues. So I think 12 months and potentially if it did have to go extended to 18 months would be sufficient.
Molly?
So when does the time clock start ticking? Is it when it is approved and everything is in? Does it start? It doesn't start today.
So this would amend the ordinance, and basically when we were just kind of scheduling it out because there would be a public hearing on the 8th of July by the Planning Commission, then you could make recommendation to the town board. Town board would have it introduced on July 14th. And then it would, public hearing at the township board would be that second Tuesday in August. I think it's the 10th or something like that. Maybe not. But then it would be, the action would be at that meeting by the township board, but then there has to be notified, there has to be notification, posting in a newspaper, and then it usually goes into effect 7 days afterwards. So
Be September before.
No, I think we figured out it would be your second meeting in August, so that fourth Tuesday where you could actually, by resolution, enact
Pass it.
And
the
that
moratorium.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
John?
I'm ready to make a motion unless there's more discussion on setting it for hearing.
Please do.
All right, I'll move that the proposed ordinance text amendment as attached to Planning Department Report 2026-90 be scheduled for a public hearing for the July 8th, 2026 Planning Commission regular meeting.
Second.
We have a motion by Racine with support by Yuli. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? The motion passes. All right, we have one more opportunity for public comment. If any public would like to step up to the podium, state their name and address, and be heard. All right, well, thank you both for attending the meeting tonight. Any other business? I don't think we discussed anything. And certainly, what are our items for the next agenda? I know we have a lot on our agenda for July at this point, but what do we have in June 24th?
We had some questions as follow-up from this meeting. And then I think just follow up with some of the stuff in the previous study session with the child care center.
Yeah.
And then there's another one I can't remember. Mixed-use signs, or
Right.
mixed-use suburban signs.
Okay.
Yep, and we, certainly we can continue discussion on data centers. And, I mean, we can still work in that effort going forward.
Yeah, well, this part is ongoing. We can, keep studying, so.
John?
Not a question for the next agenda items, but quorum question. I'm going to miss the 24th. I don't know if anybody else has issues, but if we're going to be
Well,
short and many people, we
I'm
ought
gonna
to
look
know
at my
that before
calendar,
we
too.
set the meeting, but.
Yep, as long as we got a quorum. Yep.
Sounds like nobody else is thinking they're going to be absent, so
Okay, thanks for letting us
looks
know.
like all systems are go.
There's a slim chance I could be. You ready to fill in? Pinch hit?
Sure.
I think I'll probably be here.
No
I've got
worries.
this maybe, it's like there's a maybe meeting out of town. Sometimes often those don't materialize, so. All right, sounds like we'll probably have a quorum at a minimum. Ready to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
All right, we're adjourned.